Hello everyone, welcome to the Cloud Profitability Coffee Chat. Today I'm joined by Kevin Conroy, who is CEO and founder of Blue Rooster. Kevin, about a week ago you shared with me an interesting story about how you had an epiphany at WPC that completely changed your idea about your business model. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a Jerry Maguire moment for me. We were at WPC, we always have been, and one of your partners, Brian Cook from Nintex, was giving a partner session on being a professional service company versus being a ISV. Very interesting session. He started with a really great story about a spider, so it was a very memorable one. But what really struck me at that session was that he had some amazing slides, great visuals, and the two slides that really stick out was he was talking about the revenue model for a professional service firm, and it looked like a saw and going up and down, and then the ISV being very consistent and growing, talking about the cloud business. And the second slide was really, a guy on the highway, with a gas can, laying face down. And I think those were the takeaways for me was, you can continue to grow your professional service business, but the reoccurring revenue stream and the things that really you're trying to build value in a partner business or in your own company were lacking. And I think, for us, 2014 we were starting our busiest year ever, our biggest year ever. Amazing team, but something didn't feel right. It was very unsettling. We had a lot of turbulence in our business, a lot of headwinds with how we were selling our solutions and our services. And so it kind of felt like it was time to make a change. And so, I walked out of that session going, we got to really look at that and, talk about, amongst our team, what we needed to do. And that really started the conversation with my board, with some of my key employees, kind of what we were doing. And it was very much an epiphany for us, and we kind of on that trip decided it was time to build what we do as a service into a product, and that was transformational for us.
Yeah, that's a huge leap that you made, and I think a leap that we're really recommending a lot of partners take a look at. Maybe not completely abandoning their project services business, but adding, perhaps managed services or IP to the mix to add differentiation. I think it's often hardest to make the leap to IP because it is really a very different business model from project services and managed services.
Absolutely.
So take me down the road of what were some of the first changes that you made in that beginning stage after you had your epiphany?
Yeah, and I think to your point there, I think you really got to decide what you want to be when you grow up. I think you can be a professional service company or you can be a product company, but I couldn't figure out how to be both. We had originally built a product or a solution under professional services back in 2013 for a Microsoft client, big Office 365 implementation. We worked with the MTC out of DC on this. It was a very successful implementation for us. Ran into 2014. We had a code name for the product that we were going to spin out of that called Aqua. It kind of sat on the shelf. It lingered while we had all these other busy services work going on. We kept talking about it, but we could never get it, kind of out of the incubation stage or the talking stage. And at the same time, too, there was a lot of angst then inside the business about, are you a professional service company or are you a product company? And there's a lot of stories about professional service companies that don't make the transition and are gone.
Absolutely.
And so I think after there wasn't just, Brian's session at WPC was amazing. But there was a lot going on at that conference. We learned, a much broader roadmap from Microsoft on where they're going. It was clear that if you weren't getting into the cloud with Microsoft, your future was limited. And if you didn't get that message, you weren't listening. I don't mean that as an insult to anybody, but that really it was profound to how I looked at it. I think the keynote was super powerful, and if you didn't hear Office 365 1 million times, it was falling on deaf ears.
Right.
And so really, we had to kind of look at this and say, all right, are we going to be able to do both? And by October, we decided we couldn't. So that was really, and that's when we decided we were going to make the change.
Okay. And so what types of staffing changes did you make, or how did staffing evolve? Because you shared with me that your staffing changed pretty dramatically. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was really hard. So I'm sure a lot of people watching this video that have professional service companies, those teams are really important. Those are your people, and we had a really amazing office. Still do have an amazing office, but back then, we were about 65 people spread out throughout the whole U.S. Amazing chemistry and dynamics, and from amazing UX designers and researchers and architects and developers and solution architects, and these really great teams that worked extremely well together. So you sit down at the end of the day and you're like, okay, what do I need here? And you need a much different skill set and a much different team, and you start I'm immersed myself in as much education as I could about what kind of structure I needed, and I worked with my board and with other leaders, and it was really hard. It still is. I mean, we've had a series of cuts in our team, and like I said, those are a lot of these are your friends that you hang out with and do things with, and so I think that's the hardest part, is looking at the people factor, saying, all right, what are we doing here, and how are we going forward? And we lost some great people, and that's really difficult.
So tell me about Rise Foundation, which is your product.
Yeah. It came out of this initial engagement, and really it was to take what we did as a service. So we're a boutique UX agency, creating amazing user experiences on top of SharePoint, Office 365. And how do you take that and really build that into a product that you can turn on in a matter of hours and deploy it and get all that rich functionality? And so really we sat down on over several days, and we sketched out this intranet in a box, so to speak. And there's a lot of competitors outside the Microsoft sphere that we were looking at. We're like, okay, look at what these other guys are doing. Look at what our competitors are doing, and then look what other things are happening out there in kind of SaaS startup land. And there's a bunch of them out there. And how do we kind of get those 8 or 10 core features that a client's going to go, that gets me 80% there? And so that was one of our check boxes. The other one was, how do we take what we do in the enterprise, which is the only area that we could traditionally service, and take that into the mid-market space and into the small, medium business space? And that was a underlying goal, that we had to be able to make money through all aspects of the business. And that was the big decider.
Okay, that's great. So how did you initially take that to market then? Talk to me maybe about the first couple of customers you brought on board, what that was
big changes in the selling cycle here. There's a bunch of different tools that we deploy that are, really monitoring our inbound lead generation, a lot of social marketing going outbound. We really found that the sales model too is quite a bit different. And traditionally in the past we have outside sellers. They have relationships with key accounts. We work with the Microsoft field. We go jointly in and pitch products and solutions and whatnot. And with this, we're doing a much different selling model. So it's a lot of inside sellers.
Okay.
They're doing outbound calling to key accounts. And they're across the spectrum. They're the enterprise customers, the 100,000 plus seat guys, the 35,000 seats, and then it's all the way into this very meaty part of this Office 365 market is these sub 2,000 seats. And we've really found a nice niche there. It's in a pretty amazing marketplace. And, we're working with some amazing clients right now that we never could have been able to touch. The volume of deals is considerably bigger. The actual sale is considerably smaller. We're dealing with some very large enterprise clients, and those were hundreds of thousands of dollar engagements, and now we're dealing with tens of thousands of dollars engagement. But the velocity there is considerably different.
So when you're selecting your salespeople, so you talked about inside sales being, a key focus there. What's the type of person you hire?
A lot of energy, young, gets technology, but doesn't really have to have a deep dive understanding of how the underpinnings of Office 365 and SharePoint and all these other very complex tools operate. We're really trying to sell to especially in the Office 365 space, we're selling into corporate communications and HR. They have pain points that they're addressing. Microsoft's built this amazing product that takes care of these pain points. Now, how do we help them get the value out of that? How do we get adoption up? How do we get that usage number up? And that's a pretty big connection for us right now. So IT has a seat at the table. But I wouldn't say our sellers are necessarily selling to IT. They're validating what we're doing. So we need people that can have conversations with HR people, corporate
line of
communication.
business.
Yeah, line of business is a big part of this. Absolutely.
Okay. So young and hungry. That's definitely a best practice we hear.
It's a huge cost structure difference for us too. I mean, it's a fairly different fixed cost model versus variable commission model, and that's been, I mean, we have quite a bit different makeup now. There's quite a bit of there's a lot of these guys in the office now, and there have been a lot more energy from this team. So it's a different sale, and I agree with you. It's
right. Yeah. So what about compensation? Because obviously these folks are hungry; they still want to get paid. So how do you keep them motivated? What does your incentive structure look like?
Yeah, so it's pretty small base salary. We're kind of following, we didn't come up with this model. This is the Silicon Valley model that we're seeing out there right now, and this is, eBay to Uber to, every startup that we're out there. And, they make a very small base salary. They're right out of college. And then it's a fairly big transactional variable comp model that sits on top of that, and it's really easy to understand. I mean, it's not very complex. They get a nice chunk of dough for each one of these things they close, and it's pretty straightforward. It's not very complicated. And, from a management perspective, we don't have to track the numbers of details or variables in the comp model now that we used to have to track with professional services and renewals and all sorts of things. It's you get paid when you close the transaction, you get paid again on the renewal, and it works out to be pretty good. And these guys like it. It's really it's not very complicated. Let's put it that way.
That's great. Simplicity is a good
It's
thing.
really nice. Yeah. Simple. We like simple.
So, so from a customer acquisition strategy, so obviously you talked about the inside sales. Talk to me a little bit more about the marketing side of things, social, digital. What are you doing in that area?
It's pretty fun. So a lot of new tools out there that are driving a lot of results for us. HubSpot, is a great example of another startup that's done very well. And we joke at Blue Rooster, there is no anonymity on the web anymore. So you come to our website to check us out, we're gonna own you, and so we do. And we know a lot about our clients that are coming to see us. I think that's one of the tools. A lot of SEO, a lot of outbound marketing. I write an article for CMS Wire every month. I think that's a great driver. And then also too, the paid searches. The Bing paid searches, the Google paid searches are very productive for us. So it's a different marketing story. And that there's another key hire there as well. That's very important. That marketing person, and that's another very young person out of college, has been doing this through his or her high school period. With this is a way of life for how they communicate with their friends, and so they get it pretty easly when you're saying, show me some of your skills, and they're like, well, what about this and what about that? And I'm like, okay,
they know about all the tools.
Yeah, you're overwhelming me now, so go for it. So that's been a big eye opener for me, and that's I love what we're seeing in that area.
Yeah, and I think one of the best practices you touched on there in terms of writing blogs or writing articles and those types of things, we definitely hear that's a very consistent strategy across some of our top performing partners. Yeah. Just getting out there, making themselves an expert. You're doing it today by participating in this video with me. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a great thing. And I think have you leveraged others within your organization to publish those types of articles? Because something that's sort of an interesting best practice I've seen from other partners.
Yeah, that's starting to happen. And it's funny, as we were terrible at this before, and really, my dad, love him, but he's, don't ever brag about what you're doing, and that's, very much old school business. And, now we're out there, tooting our horn, and this is new in this past year. I mean, this is kind of new for us to do this and do trade shows, and, we're trying to do an event a month right now, and then get, our, director of technology, we want him to be out there talking about the solution, and, other people inside the sales org as well. So that's, all of a sudden a big deal for us, and it is. You got to keep all those channels kind of going, and we see the direct results of people reaching out. You had a Twitter post about our phone call here a week ago, and I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and I'm just like, wow, that's really interesting how that works. Yeah, so things like that I like to see, and it was another partner, so that was kind of a fun interaction there. Yeah, so those are the kind of things we really like to see.
That's good. So talk about other partners. That's actually a good segue into our next topic. So I know you guys are pursuing sort of a partnership strategy. Talk a little bit about what that looks like. And
that's another big transformational change here. I think there's a couple points that we want to make. One is I look at obviously the guys at Nintex. We're a Nintex partner. A lot of respect for their business model. They have a great one. They really understand, bringing a partner in and not having channel conflict, and they just do product. They don't do services. We want to have the same relationship. We're just a product company. We're not even set up to do services anymore. So even if we wanted to, we couldn't do those. So we want to have more partners coming to the table. We just signed a global deal with Dell. We're rolling that out right now in North America. We're taking it to Germany and EMEA in Q4, and then Japan and Asia Pacific in Q1 next year. I think it's probably fair to say that we have Proficient signed up. We're going to announce it right before WPC. We have a few others in Australia and other places that are going to be coming online here for us. And we want that same ecosystem of being able to help the professional service guys and that really want to stay doing services, because that's still very much needed, to help them have an avenue to come in and do customizations on top of our solution, integrate. Maybe they're going to integrate with Nintex, or maybe they're going to integrate with a third-party tool, and they need to tie that together, and that's still very important. And we want to have that same relationship. I think that is important there, and I think the partner does too. I think on the second point of that is that really I think there's a lot of partners out there trying to understand where they can make money in the Office 365 ecosystem, with so many work streams being taken over by Microsoft. And I think this is a great one, and I think you're going to see where the things that you can do on Office 365 are going to start to increase with products like Rise Foundation and the Office 365 product from Nintex and these other partners that have really amazing products. And I think we're going to start seeing that the fear maybe will go away a little bit.
Yeah. We just completed a survey of about, almost 1,300 partners around the world about what were some of the most profitable opportunities they saw in the cloud, and specifically across Office 365, Azure, CRM Online, et cetera. And SharePoint Online is a hot topic among cloud partners. And I think you made a good point there. It was like, even if those managed services partners can't build their own IP, they can partner with folks like yourself, with Nintex, to bring those solutions into their customer. I mean, I think at the end of the day, a lot of our customers are mutual Microsoft, customers that we are mutual customers. They want to go to one service provider for a lot of what they do, and they have an expectation that a managed services provider will bring that to them and put together a comprehensive solution for them.
Absolutely.
And so I think there's a huge opportunity there to pursue that partnering strategy and still think about differentiation, because that's a really critical thing, I think, for the future for profitability, but you don't have to build the IP to be differentiated.
Well, and I think there's a lot of partners out there that have long-standing relationships with some amazing clients, and we're not there to compete with their clients, but they have these pain points that they want to address, or maybe they've been looking at Office 365 for a while. They have a great, on-premise installation. They're going to run them both. They're going to do some sort of a hybrid model there, or they're going to move 100% to the cloud. Well, there's some work streams that we can help make this a very cost-effective solution, and I think that's what the client's looking for, and I think the partner wants that as well. So that's a good thing.
100%.
It's a good win-win. So
talk to me a little bit about the recurring revenue model and how you're charging for your solution, because I know that's key, and that was one of the reasons why you chose this model. So
it's a great question. I would say that it's very much still in evolution. We did a lot of research in the marketplace, and what are competitors charging? How are competitors doing it? And also competitors outside the SharePoint and Microsoft ecosystem too. You look at the big players in the space, the Salesforce of the world, and those sorts of things. So you get a lot of data points there. And it's a per person per month model, very similar to the Office 365 model. But then you really got to find out what's your published price versus your what you actually get a transaction closed at, and that can be all over the board. And I think the key findings for us is, and I might be disclosing a lot of competitive information here, but when you're in the cloud model, there isn't a price that isn't too low. because you're locking in your client. Right. And you're locking into a client on a platform that is going to have a very low churn rate, and churn for you partners that are new to this is going to be a big deal for you. And so you really got to look at this as what's your opportunity cost of not taking that sale. And so we're learning that very quickly, and that there isn't a price point that a customer can come back at you at and say, I want it for X.
Sure.
Because we really look at it as there's going to be, once we have this client, you're going to add new products to them every single year. And that's kind of our strategy on this is the name of the product comes for, is very specific. It's Rise Foundation. It's the first. There are several that are coming behind it. So how do you keep that thought process going? And we want to get the client, we want to land it, we want to land it with a partner, and then we want to keep, bringing things to the table. And that's been a big transition.
So great. So what's the roadmap look like for your product? Are you adding new features all the time? What's that look like?
So we looked at how Microsoft was messaging that, and since it is a cloud-based product, there's no version 2, version 3. Those are old school terms, and so we have a kind of an evolutionary product roadmap, and the things that we looked at best practices for Microsoft, and we said, okay, these are the things that have been developed, these are the things that are in development, and these are the things we're rolling out. So we have a published website that has roadmap features on it. We give access to our clients so they can see what we're working on. There's a build that's going out every 2 weeks for us. So there's new features and new tweaks kind of happen all the time. We get a lot of customer feedback too, and not only in the clients that we've closed, but the clients that we're pitching to. Hey, can it do this and can it do that? And so we talk to our engineering team. We say, hey, can we add this? Is this something simple? And so those are features that are kind of coming out all the time. And so we can come back to a client, and those have been really kind of interesting to see when we're in the sales cycle with a client that says, hey, can you do X? And we come out, the next demo, and we show them that X is done. And they're like, well, okay, that's pretty cool.
Do you do any training when you initially implement the solution with, say, a train the trainer, or what's your model?
We are doing that, and we've built these, we call them quick start campaigns. There's a number of them. This is another partner piece that we like to train our partners on, so then they can deliver that. Yes. They're getting the revenue then, not us. We're seeding the market with these. They tend to be fairly quick. We also have built a fairly in-depth video library as well that we can kind of push out to the client, and that can help them. We're finding that the solution is fairly intuitive as well. So I think the things that we're seeing in training, we didn't anticipate, and those are the things that we're going back and saying, all right, can we enhance the user experience here so we can pick those features up?
All right, so switching gears a little bit here.
Sure.
Why Microsoft?
Good question. So, I think there was a period there for a while that we questioned the path of Microsoft. I think there was some dark days, when, the mobile and all the other things that were taking place that, those were, work streams that were missed. And so I think with the change of leadership, like I said, last WPC, that keynote, and Mr. Nadella getting up there and talking about where we're going, and either you're on board or you're not on board. I think that was very motivating for me. I also think, too, seeing the product and kind of where you're going with that has been, okay, this is the horse we want to hitch our wagon to, and that's been a big deal for us because that was not necessarily the case here a few years ago, I would say. So that's one aspect of it, and the second aspect of it too is as we started doing a bunch of research on what we're doing, and I spent an enormous amount of time on this. Selling against Microsoft that we're better than SharePoint, or this is easier to use than SharePoint, or all the other things that some of these competitors do in the ecosystem, I think is a terrible strategy. And I look at that and I go, I didn't want to be that guy or that company that their marketing plan was built around we're better than SharePoint or Office 365, and I think that's a deal killer for you, and I don't think that's going to translate with the 125 million users out there in SharePoint land that are using that product. And I think we did this. We looked at the stats. The metrics are show me somebody else that's got that installed base. So we looked at, building, Rise Foundation as the first product. As I said, we're going to put some other products on top of that are pretty cool around the cloud strategy. And we looked at a platform that could support that. Where's your roadmap? Are you going to be able to support what we're doing? Are you going to be a competitor to us? Are you going to compete in that arena? And we looked at it and said, no, they're focused on the infrastructure of that product, and we can find a home and a space to operate and make money in this area. And I think that was
your customers.
That's right, and that was a big deal. And we had to look at not just our platform, but could the partner make money? And how do we scale this thing? And how do we look differently than what we currently are? Because we didn't want to change 10 degrees. We wanted to make a big change.
Okay, that's great. That's really good. So. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun. A lot of fun.
I think the one final question I have would be, there's an awful lot of partners who are probably watching this video and saying, that's awesome. I wish I had the courage to do that, or how am I going to get started? Is there any final advice you would have for those partners who are just getting started, and maybe this video is their epiphany?
Yeah. Well, you can always reach out to me on email, and it's my first name, Kevin, at Blue Rooster, and I'd love to talk to you and tell you the really gory details, because there's a bunch of them. But, really, it came down to we were feeling some headwinds in our industry. We were hearing what Microsoft was saying about, you need to figure out what you're doing in the cloud, and we had to make an evaluation. And you can't as a partner that your business is predicated upon the mothership, so to speak. If they're making a change, and in Microsoft, really you could say it's been coming for a while, but the message that we got loud and clear last year, and not just at WPC, but SharePoint conference, et cetera, that you need to be on board here. And so you have to listen to those market signals and really understand what's going on there, because we were feeling that it was coming, and it's still not, the move to the cloud still isn't quite there yet, but when it comes, it's going to be overnight. And one day you're going to wake up and, your business is going to be gone. And I think, the thing for us is, if you're going to go down this path, go down this wholeheartedly and
go all in.
And go all in. And I think that's a big deal for us. And, I looked at the team, I looked at kind of how we're going to market, and I couldn't figure out how we could support both. And so we really had to look at this and say, hey, I got to make a fundamental change in my business. We want to be around, we've been around this is our 15th year in business. We want to be around for another 15 years. And this is a very exciting time for us. It's a really innovative period in technology space. Look at all the cool technologies that are happening out there, and we wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. That's really good advice.
Yeah.
And I really want to thank you again for joining me today. This has been an awesome, fantastic chat, and my first Cloud Profitability Coffee Chat. So thanks to you two partners for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and please reach out at any time to me as well at jseeger@microsoft.com or on Twitter at Jen Seeger. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right.